Okay, being 7 o'clock, do we have a motion to open our meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are open. Good evening, everybody. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. It's Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. This meeting is being audio and video recorded and is also available on Zoom for any of our members who could not attend tonight. I'd like to start off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so we have a couple hearings tonight. First hearing is going to be with our Conservation Department and our agent, Mr. Pat Hannon. So Pat, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Actually, I spoke to Mr. Kelly, and he was going to handle this tonight. So I was...
All right, so you'll be there to answer some questions.
If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay. So, Mr. Kelly, the floor is yours.
The only real change from past years is anything that's mandated by collective bargaining. And the fact that the stormwater MS4 permit, which was funded in 2023 at $23,000, will be handled by an article this year.
How much will that article?
Well, the article will be approximately $50,000.
And I know there are like requirements to make sure we're in compliance, correct?
Correct.
So by doing this, we're going to be in compliance with the MS4 permitting.
Well, I can't say we will, but I'm happy to say that we will be very likely to be. You can never be 100% sure, but this
We're a better
this
position.
effort with Mr. Hannon and I have talked about the fact that we're going to need to have adequate funding for our engineering consult firm, that this will take care of it. The Conservation Commission, in their wisdom, has shifted some of their engineering work, and so we want to make sure that we have consistency and continuation in the MS4, so we're going to do it through an article. Isn't that correct, Pat?
I would say that we'll be in substantial compliance if that's funded.
Okay, very good.
And we have some other efforts that will help us with the MS4 issues going forward, coming up through various projects.
So it looks like the overall budget is only up.
We can't forget about the change in the overtime line because of the added work from the stormwater. We need a little bit of money in our overtime. We've already maxed out our overtime for this year. And I thought there was a suggestion to make it, I don't know, $1,000 or $1,400 or something like that.
Yeah, it was increased because of that.
Right, so that's what increased the overall budget by $1,000.
Yep.
Was that?
And also, we've made sure that the division of between conservation and health is an actual correction. And that's really an accounting issue.
I got a question for Mr. Hannon. Mr. Hannon, any other articles that the Conservation Commission will be presenting?
No other articles. There'll be a regulation that the commission will pass themselves under the bylaw once that passes.
Okay.
Which bylaw?
The stormwater bylaw requires the commission to also develop a regulation. And our regulation's outdated, and there's a few mandates from EPA that need to be updated in that. But under the bylaw, it's done solely by the commission, a public hearing by the commission, and then ratified by the commission. It doesn't go to town meeting, only the bylaw goes to town meeting.
Is the Conservation Commission going to write an article to change the bylaw?
Oh, are they going to write the article? I don't know if they can. I don't know if they have the expertise. I mean, they've made the edits. We had a template that was given to us by our former stormwater engineer. And the commission wanted to write their own. And then when they started to tackle it, they decided to use the template, but they have made some edits to the template. And that's what's gonna need to be vetted through the planning board. We spoke to the town clerk. She's emailed us back that the commission should have a public hearing on it before town meeting. And then the planning board would need to have a public hearing, and then whatever your rest of your recommendations are, whoever votes recommendations for town meeting. That's what
Pat, I don't know if you saw the email to your chair from the town clerk. I don't even know, maybe your chair was copied on it, but
I thought that's what I thought it was.
when the town clerk was asked who was going to write the article, I thought she said the Concom was.
Well, I thought she did, but I thought I heard today, and I'm not being funny, but that you were gonna write it. So, honestly, God, I did hear that.
I think he was the one saying
Not
it.
a hack, Mr. Kelly.
So whoever writes it will be making a recommendation on it. Correct?
Well, if I write it, then it'll be interesting.
Okay.
So, as far as writing, are you talking about taking the existing bylaw, redlining it, adding the new language, and getting that to you and Pam, or is there something else?
Well, the article language itself has to be written to put it before town meeting.
Well, that's been done by the commission. They've edited the document. And it-
Jim, you're not gonna-
I believe it was done in a red line.
I'm gonna end up doing it.
But if it wasn't,
All right, we'll look into it.
Look into it, yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Hannon while we have him here?
Just a quick question, Pat. The overtime item, I know we're talking about $1,000, but there's,
There it is, thank you.
would it be possible for Joanne to look on YouTube and just watch the meetings there? And then there's ways of downloading the actual meeting via closed caption, the closed caption text. And that she can download that and actually edit it. Thinking that may be save her some time.
That's not the only thing that she does.
Okay.
She has to call paperwork over to the meeting, set the meeting up, give them documents to sign, make sure they sign the document. That's an administrative job. And our meetings have gotten longer because of stormwater.
Right.
It's bigger than conservation. It's a very heavy lift, and our meetings are getting 2 hours to 2.5 hours when they used to be 45 minutes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And the other party, she can't watch videos and get people coming into the office and answering the phone and all of those things. And she's only there 4 hours, and that's a real handicap.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
No other questions for Mr. Hannon?
No.
All right, Mr. Hannon, thank you for attending tonight. We appreciate it. And if we have any questions, we'll reach out.
All right, sorry about that.
That's all right.
That's okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks. Okay, next up to the plate is our golf department, general manager, Mr. Dana Przybrzewski, and superintendent, Mr. Steve Tibbles. Dana, you got the floor first.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for taking the time to review this year. So collectively, Steve and I have put together our budget, submitted it for review by the golf committee. They've collaborated on it as well, and we're before you is what we've come up with. Overall, there are some slight increases across the board. Steve and I have reached out to our vendors. As you know, in the economic climate, inflation, increase of costs, it goes down the line with our suppliers and everything else. So we'll basically start out in the salaries section. It's basically flatline for all of us salaried employees. And that's based upon, I guess, communications with the golf committee as well as with Mr. Kelly and the Board of Selectmen. So our numbers stay the same through those line items.
Numbers stay same temporarily
Temporarily
until the situation
is reviewed.
with the union is resolved.
So
Mr. Isaac.
there is a slight increase with clubhouse employees. In the past, we've come a long way over the last 20 years, where we used to struggle for rounds and advertising and marketing and getting people onto the course. Now, we are a staple in the market. So with that growth comes additional customer service demands. It is the belief of the golf committee that we'd like to try and reach out and do a few more of the little things for our customers, as far as having bag boys on hand, having some more staff available in the pro shop, taking phone calls, and just having basically some resources to draw upon in those heavy volume times. So you see an increase with the clubhouse employees, not to mention the increases that we've seen with minimum wages across the board. Basically, my guys, our bag boys get paid minimum wage, and our starters, I think, are at $15.90 or $15.95 in that ballpark, but roughly just above minimum wage. But as you know, minimum wage has gone up drastically over the last 8 years, 9 years, so it is what it is. It's the cost of doing business. I'll let Steve speak to his staff employees and those increases as well.
Oh, sorry, question before we
Yes.
move on, because I'm gonna forget.
Sure.
The cost of the guys to carry the bags and things like that ultimately gets pushed off to the golfer, right? Or any of those
Well,
costs?
all of these costs get pushed.
Yeah, no,
It's all included in
in
the
their
enterprise
cost.
fund.
Yeah.
So,
It's not, I mean, are you referring to a bag boy? You're
Yeah, bag
referring to
boy.
a caddy.
You
Yeah, we don't do caddies.
have
don't do caddies, but you have bag, right, so you're
Yeah,
talking
the
about bag
bag boys
boys.
are paid an hourly wage for the work that they do.
And
They may receive tips from a particular person, depending on that person, or whether they clean that person's clubs for them, or carry that person's bag from the car to the cart and so on.
is that cost though is that part, like, does the golfer pay extra to have a bag boy
no,
help
no.
them? No, okay.
They're essentially there for our usage, so
I
that,
got you.
Their
yeah, I need
courtesy.
3 cases of soda down at the grill. I need,
I got you.
you know, we
I
need-
thought they were more like a caddy
Yeah,
type
no, we-
situation
no,
where it's a
we're,
cost that
yeah.
gets pushed off to the
The
member.
bag boys are there to assist the people as they, because we have a bag drop, where
Okay.
you can drive your automobile to the front of the clubhouse, drop your bags off, or in some instances, the bag boy will actually bring a cart to you in the parking lot and put your bags physically
Gotcha.
on there, so.
So Dana, I got a question.
Yes.
So how many clubhouse employees are you adding?
I'm not adding any really, because I used to have 2
Yeah.
prior to COVID, and I never put them back on staff because I haven't found the right people for those positions. I have cross-trained some of my starters and kind of pulled them from their positions and gave them hours to answer phones and help me out over the past year. But I think this year I'm looking to backfill with a body, for that job. Basically to answer phones and book tee times and do the transactions. I used to have several college kids that have since moved on and gone on into their careers. And COVID hit, so where we were restricted with occupancy, with employees, so it was basically just me and Isaac, and everybody, we were in lockdown basically, and everybody did their transactions through the window for 2 years. So now we've come out of that, and we're still seeing a pretty decent volume of play. It hasn't really dropped off all that much. The weather was a little bit different this year than it was last year, but our rounds are still very strong in the market. So I assume that to be the same way as we head into the spring.
How many FTEs?
I mean,
The equivalency of FTEs?
It's myself and Isaac on my side of it,
No, I mean with all those people.
just
so
me and
you're
Isaac.
looking for full-time equivalents
Yeah.
well, I
How many people?
I have 2 full-timers.
No, how many people total?
I probably have 12 guys. Part-timers, all part-timers.
All the clubhouse employees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
starters, rangers, bag boys,
Yeah.
grill people,
And 2 full-time.
me and Isaac. Which, the golf industry is a little bit different than a normal, mom and pop store. We're open sunrise to sunset, 40 weeks of the season, all year round. Rain, shine, snow, we're typically, we're open for business, because there is always some guy that, we spoke to this before, Steve has to prepare the course, whether we have 100 and 200 players or 1 player, but there's always some guy coming out in the rain that wants to smoke a cigar and get out of his house.
Or playing 100-degree heat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that
so-
before.
And,
you have to provide the same quality for every customer.
and just to clarify for the committee, as you know, we're not under the minimum wage law that private sector are, but we're competing with private sector.
So you have
to
to pay
hire,
everything and anything.
we have to pay.
Which we've come across this struggle over the last couple of years. When COVID hit, you couldn't find anybody to work, especially at the golf course where everybody was going. We went through a tough time those 2 years where we took on a lot of responsibilities that were outside of our realm, but it needed to get done. So, me and Steve were wearing 7 hats, and we kind of earned a little bit more respect for one another, because as we're crossing paths, we're always doing something different, but we're still there from sunrise to sunset, because Johnny's mom wouldn't let him come to work because of COVID, and Louis 75 years old and he has bad bronchitis, and he's not going to take the chance. So it was a struggle.
Well, the other problem is that I don't want to be too critical of the younger workforce, but there aren't a substantial number of people who went out to get out and do the type of labor that we do anymore. When you can go to Walmart or Target or McDonald's and stand inside in the air conditioner and get paid $16-17 an hour. Yeah. Why are you going to come out and work for me when you have to deal with the rain, the bugs, the temperature, and get paid 15 and change an hour? Right. It's and unfortunately, I have a staff of either 13 or 14, depending on how the part-time versus full-time works out. We have 5 full-time people, including myself. All the others are part-time. And the basis of my staff, and it's been the same basis for the past 15 to 16 years, are my retired guys. All guys that are, I'm 63. And besides my assistant, I'm the youngest guy out of all those retired guys. And my mechanic and I are basically the same age. But those 74 and 75-year-old guys who are out there cutting fairways and cutting rough, they're what's holding us together and allowing us to produce the golf course that we produce. They come in on time, they do an excellent job, they're very responsible as far as the equipment goes.
Great sense of pride.
They understand when their particular pieces, they can tell by how it sounds.
It's a different generation.
It is. It's crazy.
And these are also the same guys who have been there 15, 16, and 17 years.
And at some point though, at 75, you can, but at some point your body.
You guys are facing a problem.
Well, so that's the thing is, unfortunately, the population of retired folks interested in doing that has kind of subsided somewhat. We don't seem to get as many people looking for that type of work. So we're in a position now where we have to, I wouldn't say, I don't want to say we're in trouble, but we have to prepare for the future. because the future is going to be somewhat different in regard to the workforce, but it's also going to be different in the way which you approach work. And unfortunately, that difference might cost you more or less depending on how you're able to accommodate that, so. But I'm right now, I mean, our staff, our existing staff is returning. The only people who aren't returning are the 3 individuals who were, I classify as college or high school students. They've all moved on to, 2 have moved on to college and 1 has moved on to a similar position at a different course where he's getting paid $6 more an hour than I can pay him. Which, I don't blame him one bit for making that decision. He's a good worker, and unfortunately we lost him, but, a reflection in my employee payroll category is an attempt by myself to keep pace with competition as far as being able to hire people. I mean, I got a letter in the mail myself the other day from not one of the home lawn companies looking to hire. Evidently, they must get all our names off the pesticide license registry at the state, and they're paying from $20 to $28 an hour for a position that I'm right now paying $17.75 for an hour. Plus you get the automobile, plus you get this benefit, that benefit. I mean, the benefit list is, is a quarter of the page. So it is becoming more difficult to compete, so.
Well, part of the problem is you're dealing with the era of entitlement. And it's, these young kids want to get a job, and they want to start off at the top, way up here. They don't want to start off at the bottom.
It's funny you say that, because the one thing that I have noticed is, and maybe I'm a little bit prejudiced because it's part of my background, farm kids are gone.
Yeah.
There aren't any more kids who grew up, 8, 9, 10 years old, where, dad and mom or grandpop stuck you out there and you were either, baling hay, doing this, or taking care of the cows, or taking care of the livestock or something like that. They're all gone now. And that's unfortunate, because those were the kids in the FFA, programs and whatnot who were looking to this kind of work as well. I mean, we're starting to get a resurgence, but our resurgence is in the ranks of second assistants and assistant superintendents.
Yeah, now they're off making TikTok videos and
That's right.
making money on social media.
Oh yeah, and they're
On the golf course.
Yeah, probably.
We got off a little tangent there, but
Yeah, no, those are,
It's
those are-
bad,
that's the
because
reality.
that's
with
where,
that.
I mean, obviously your payroll expenses are a, one of the higher aspects of your budget. We did include an actual overtime line item this year to address and keep track of that, as opposed to just, putting overtime hours in regular salary. And the other, what I normally consider a payroll expense, but the town doesn't, I don't think they calculate fringe benefits as a payroll expense. But we're kind of in limbo with that, because we don't know what's going on with the insurance and how that's going to, whether it's going to go up or whether it's going to go down.
It's going up.
It's going
We
up.
just don't
I think
know
we can
how.
Well, I
confirm
was
that.
going to say, my wife's been in the insurance business for 42 years, and there's no going down right now. So
But
I
just
should rephrase
to
that.
speak to that
It's
point.
how much it's going up is
Right.
the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
In previous discussions and previous town admins and board of selectmen's meetings and discussions, they've mentioned indirect costs in the past, but those fringe benefits and insurance basically have been a staple in our budgets since our existence, and those are basically indirect costs that are included in the enterprise fund. So just to point that out,
yes,
a lot of
They-
people don't
They
understand.
have to be by law.
right.
So moving down through the wages and into the line items of fringe benefits, energy, maintenance energy, buildings and grounds, and R&M and equipment. as far as the R&M and equipment, we're an aging facility. We've been in that double wide for a while. A lot of our equipment is dated and basically outdated. So we've been having discussions with regards to putting some cushion in there so that when some of these problems are gonna stop popping up and arising, we have a line item that can deal with those issues. So that is the increase in that line item. Maintenance, R&M and equipment. Looking at rentals from 8,000 to 11. There's services that we're using, costs of those services. Everybody's basically jumping on the inflation wagon, and whether it's for their own profitability or just their own survival in business, we have to incur those cost increases ourselves.
Well, they're passing costs on to you. I mean, everybody who makes a delivery has
Yes.
a diesel fuel charge now.
Delivery charge.
I mean, even when I get fertility products delivered, I get charged a surcharge for the actual pallet, the number of pallets that get delivered. Sod, I get charged a surcharge for the pallet, but I get a refund if I turn the pallet back in, because sod pallets are of a different construction than normal pallets are. But you can see right down the line whether it's a regular supplier, whether it's the gas folks and fuel or what have you. Everybody is taking that increase and passing it on in some form or another, above and beyond their actual product cost increases.
So yeah, they're getting creative in the ways that they can be, and that's the line when you see these economists speaking of inflation, they say it gets sticky. That's the stickiness. You know, they bump it up a little bit. Oh, maybe we could squeak in a little bit more and get creative on this, and then it stays. So that's again, it's kind of like insurance. It's not coming down. The trash we wiped out. Telephone line items, R&M irrigation, communication and advertising, basically roughly flat line. Credit card fees, those I assume will probably go up as they usually do. I mean, I don't know, Mr. Kelly, I think we discussed ad hoc, maybe possibly reviewing our vendors to see what we can do. But
Yeah, we're going through that situation as we go through everything through the treasurer collector's office. I think, Dana, really the two items that they're probably interested in most of the leases.
all right. So I mean, yeah, if you go down through the rest of the line items, basically the increase in cost from our vendors that we've increased our line items for those. As far as golf cart leases, years ago, we would do the golf carts in an entire fleet, 74 carts done at once. And I think at that time, it might have been in the realm of 60,000. That was, what, probably 2017 or pre-2017. And then we kind of, we hit this spell and we were kind of concerned, we were headed as we're winding down into 2027 bond payments, and then we discussed the idea of staggering out the golf carts. With 74 carts, we turned in 14, because we leased to own. So once we had them, you minimize the cost because now you own them. So you wouldn't trade them in. You keep them for a year if you could, not have a payment. And then it gets to a point where you have to renew them and get new equipment. So we did 14 cots, and then we were doing them in groups of 20. So I think right now we're on our third group of 20, if I'm not mistaken.
It's second or third. I think starting in 2017, we started to go with three-year approach to carts. And we started, as Dana had mentioned, you're going with a smaller group. Unfortunately, that has its pluses and its minuses. One of the most significant problems with that is that golf carts, like any other piece of equipment, you get newer versions every year. And we get stuck in a position where you take 20 carts and trade them in, you get 20 new ones, but you have 40 more to 50 more that are the older model, which you can't get parts for, or they're different parts. So now you have to get a series of parts for both your 20 carts that are new, plus your 50 or so carts that are old. Then the next year you do it again. So now that 50 or so number reduces to 40, but now you have two different sets of 20 that are two different models with different parts and so on. For
And you have to
instance, right
source those
now,
parts.
well, you have to, that's one of the things. I mean, several years ago, the golf committee came to me and asked if we could undertake the maintenance of the golf carts. Because in the past, they had paid approximately $4,000 a year to Club Car for a maintenance contract. And, you know, my only sticking point with that is I would be more than happy to oversee the maintenance of the golf carts, but you have to understand that when push comes to shove, my greens mowers comes before that golf cart. And just because I have to keep,
Wouldn't it be cheaper just to do the maintenance?
it would be, well,
Actually, I just spoke with the sales rep today, and he's giving me numbers for a maintenance
it's-
package this year. So
it
I'm
would
gonna
help.
present that to the golf
Because
committee.
now you gotta stock, you try to stock a couple of parts that
Right.
go frequently.
Well, and they're the experts on their carts. Our
Right.
guys are figuring out, you know, what to do and trying to prioritize Steve's workload and fit in the golf
we
carts.
have a certain number of, one of the most recent acquisitions in carts was, you know, for lack of a better word, a very poor model. It didn't have anything to do with our selection or our decision to get it. It's just, you know,
They modified their
Club Car
equipment.
put out a crummy model.
It's like a
and-
first year of a new car.
The
They're
crummy model,
working
the
on
crummy
some bugs.
model has had some problems, and we've had to have them in a couple of times to fix them. Something as simple as brushes in an alternator, you know, because the cart wouldn't turn over. The battery is fine, the cart wouldn't turn over. And in other instances, because of the way in which the charging system in the cart worked, it would drain the battery. And, you know, you don't, I mean, it's $190 or $185 to $190 a battery for a golf cart. And when you're talking about, you know, 15 or so batteries during the course of the year, that runs up. Now, if you're under warranty and then you have that particular incident, they can pay it off, but that, you know, they'll take care of it. But as far as the golf cart leases are concerned, I think it's beneficial for us now. At some point in the future, we might want to consider either turning over the entire fleet at one time, because then when you do that, you get into, like, for my equipment, if I rotate my equipment every 3 to 4 years, I don't run out of significant warranty issues.
Right.
But I also don't run into significant problems. I'm not replacing hydraulic motors, I'm not replacing pumps on sprayers and so forth. I mean, it's like a leased car. Basically, if you have a leased car, you change the oil, rotate the tires, and make sure you keep the car clean. In 3 years, you don't have any major problems.
I think too, the mindset of the committee was to be somewhat conservative as we were coming into 2027. We didn't want to take on a full fleet if things went south and started to dry up as far as the business. We want to be conservative on our expenses and our line items. So it was a wise plan to go 14, 20, 20, and 20 and kind of phase into it, not knowing that when you get into it, these are now the new problems that exist with it. It is a little bit more expensive, but at least you can step it out and control it. But then you run into the parts and labor and that aspect of it. So I'm speaking with Steve, and we've kind of been reviewing the idea of possibly, maybe we should redo the whole fleet after this next set of 20. So, like I said, I spoke to the vendor today, and he's gonna get me a maintenance contract proposal, as well as an idea if we were to do maybe taking 50, so we get 20s to get 54 cots maybe on the next run. So there's our 74 fleet. So we'll see what that number comes to.
Steve, your mechanic's a small engine guy, right?
Well, I mean, you could say small engine. He does. I mean, our equipment runs the gamut of engines, anything from a walk rotary to a a large diesel engine in a rough mower or in a tractor.
And he can take care of all
Right, he
those.
takes care of all of that, but the other things that, the other thing that's different about golf is not only is a mechanic in the sense of taking care of an engine or the power plant of a piece of equipment, but you're also a mechanic in the sense of sharpening reels, grinding bed knives, grinding reels.
Hydraulics.
Doing-
Well, what I'm getting to is, you've got all that equipment he has to take care of.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you've got the golf carts, 74 golf carts. And what type of golf carts are they?
They're gas.
The gas carts, yeah.
They're gas carts. If you, when you're examining down the road for the change of the fleet, are you looking at electric versus gas?
We could do that.
Problems with electric cars.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
And-
they've had
and
some-
housing is a big
Housing
piece of
and-
that.
And the batteries go dead the next
Yeah,
morning, you
garage.
wanna get the carts up.
Yeah, it's
There-
just
there's been
that
some
whether they're
problems.
gonna, gas carts are gonna be available.
Well,
There's
at some
going to-
point they'll
that's
be
true.
obsolete. That's
Well, I
true.
mean,
That's
I
gonna be
wouldn't
the first thing to
necessarily,
go.
I wouldn't necessarily call them obsolete too quickly
No,
because
but
there's a
some-
lot
at some
of, there's a
point.
lot of places who can't afford the electric and don't have the facility.
And facility
I
to set
think-
it all up, so
yeah.
that car can be
You know, our carts, we don't have an indoor cart storage facility. You could charge them outside, but I'm not that keen on trying to set up an electric charging system for carts that are outside. You know, as you folks probably know, our debt is going to be paid off in, was it
2027.
2027? So at that point, there should, I am hoping that there'll be some serious consideration to making infrastructure changes that would allow for that to happen. For instance, if somebody, we've tossed around the idea of having a clubhouse facility, depending on what size it is and how it's done, that's to be determined. But if you design it and build it properly, you can put your golf cart storage directly underneath it, as in a basement circumstance. And then that would give us
Wire
a
it.
significantly easier opportunity to do something with electric carts. I mean, everybody thinks electric vehicles are new. Electric golf carts have been around forever.
Yeah.
With charging stations, and I mean,
Just let
when
them
I
all
was
sit
out in
there.
Arizona, we had a big, it was in the garage, and you pulled the golf cart in, you pulled the thing in, plugged it in. Next morning, you pulled the plug out, and you pulled it out.
Yeah. And usually the barns, they're all lined up. Carts go right into their parking spots, right
So
into the
if
plugs.
we had, that's something to consider in the future. And I
Are the
think-
new ones lithium ion, or are they?
No, well, some of the newer ones are. The other ones are just older charged batteries.
Right.
I'm hoping they come up with something better than lithium ion.
Yeah, because that's my next question. You'll build a clubhouse.
They kind of,
I would probably want to
Yeah.
separate.
yeah, they kind
They,
of
that's a
catch on fire.
That's a discussion that
Yeah.
is in another area right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I still have a fire chief memo. Is that what you're talking
No, I'm talking about the golf course going forward.
about? Oh, okay, I got you.
They're considering, for lack of a better word, what your future is after you pay off your debt. And whether or not, and I personally, I've heard the rumor that they'd like to hire a consultant to discuss that with them. I think between myself and Dana and the people on the golf committee and contacting and speaking with our public, the same public who's been golfing at that golf course for 20 years, we can put our heads together and figure out the best, a good direction for us to go.
It didn't work when we first started.
Hmm?
It
Didn't work when we
Right.
first started, no. It
Because
was
you
where
lose
I've been on the
control
committee for
of
16,
the product.
17 years now. and
Well, the nice
it never
things
worked
about
when we
Acushnet River
first started.
Valley is we have
They took us through the coals, and we didn't do nothing.
we have a significantly dedicated group of people who
Yep.
come week in
They
and week
appreciate it.
out. Not only do they appreciate it, but they're a good resource to speak with and talk to
Sure.
about what they would like, what they would envision and what they would like to see, what they like about the property, what they don't, and so on. Because those are the people in the end who are footing.
They
the
travel
bill
from
anyway.
all over. People that come in the summer, vacationing down the Cape. They come in from Boston, from Rhode Island.
I have guys coming from Western Mass driving
Yeah.
45 to an hour, over an hour. They must pass at least 25 30 golf courses, if not more.
Good ones, too.
And they play Acushnet every week.
One of the best municipal golf courses.
And one of the things I'd like to point out, there's
Really
three
is.
things that have been consistent since the golf course used to use third-party management. Steve and myself came on roughly at the same time, and the course was built in '98. The problems arose through around 2002, 2001 when we came on. Since then, we've taken the course from the new guy on the block to, the place to play golf in the area. So, I mean, I reckon it stands for ourselves, but that's a decision, that's just our opinion and our track record. If the powers that be want to decide to do something else, that's their decision.
Yeah.
Well, I think consultants are expensive, and they like to run out billable hours as much as they can.
And they feed you what you want to hear. Once they get you hooked and they get their check, sayonara.
I think of the back nine in Lakeville. They got a nice little clubhouse restaurant bar there. I think something like that
Sure.
would be.
Well, that's why I say you have to understand who your clientele base is.
Right.
You have to understand not only who your clientele base is, but who the people in town are who might like to use that facility for some purpose or another.
Exactly.
Yes.
I've been here 22 years, and my experience with the folks in the town of Acushnet is they're very, very nice people, very friendly people, and I spend a lot of time with dealing with local businesses. And I think if you get those people's input, it would help you.
Yeah.
But, not to belabor our meeting here tonight, so maybe we should get back to this, but I think that's the right direction to go.
We don't have a surf and turf crowd.
Well, that's my,
For the most part.
all clientele are unique, and we should
Sorry,
avail
there's
ourselves
nothing wrong
of
with
their
a good
unique
burger.
characteristics.
I love birdies. So that in regards to the cot leases, that's where we're at. We have a few things that we're going to review with the golf committee. And then as far as equipment leases, I can let Steve speak to that.
Well, equipment leases, just a little bit of information. Equipment fleets, depending on how you approached it. Back in 2006, when the town actually took over the maintenance portion of the golf course, I presented to Mr. Catino an idea of having a 5-year equipment rotation program. Because at the time, that was the industry standard for rotating equipment out. There's particular items that you can keep a little bit longer, tractors, maybe large area rough mowers, for instance. But your most utilized equipment, your greens mowers, tees mowers, your short grass equipment, that's something you're going to want to rotate out in at least every 5 years. Bringing that back to our current situation now, we got somewhat away from that 5-year program. We started getting individual pieces. Sometimes that was beneficial for us because of what we could afford. At other times, it's not so much beneficial because with a lease package, you can get much more equipment for a similar dollar amount. So we have some items now that we currently lease. We have a wide area rough mower that is leased. We have one fairway mower that is leased, and we have a greens roller that was recently leased. And we've had this discussion in our Greens Committee meetings quite a number of times, and it appears as though in some instances when we have the money, we buy the piece of equipment outright. I'm not a fan of paying finance charges. I kind of think it's a waste of money. But if we can afford it, we buy them outright. And then we're in a situation right now, I think earlier on, equipment repair and maintenance was touched on. We're in a situation now where because of supply issues, I ordered a fairway mower last December. It's supposed to be delivered this March. So what that means is that we've had to spend an extra year with a piece of equipment that we didn't think we needed to, and putting extra money into it. And our equipment is not your everyday lawnmower or John Deere tractor that you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. fairway mower now costs 65 to 72,000 bucks for one. The rough mower is $82,000. The greens triplex is 36 to 37. T-triplex, depending on whether you get diesel or hybrid, is in the same ballpark. So and I think the committee has done a relatively good job of addressing, keeping leases where we can afford them, and also buying individual pieces of equipment when we can to avoid lease payments or finance payments. And right now we're waiting for another T-triplex that was ordered. Actually, it was ordered the same time in December. That won't be delivered, December of 21, that won't be delivered till August of 23. And the two greens mowers that we ordered in August of 22 will not be delivered until the spring of 24. And unfortunately, that has pushed our routine maintenance costs up and above the board. And we're getting to the point now where we're gonna have to buy new reels because there's not any meat left on the reel to grind, because we've had it for 5 or 6 or 7 years. So that's, it's kind of basically the story with leasing. Again, I don't like the lease, but after we sit down, the golf committee looks at each piece of equipment that I recommend. We discuss it, they make a decision, and we look at what's best for us economically, given, as Dana mentioned, what we're bringing in the gate, because that's what we live off of, and what we have in, I don't know what they call it now, like contingency fund?
Reserve.
Reserve, yeah. So that's that top line of 100?
Well, not that, I mean, just your contingency fund overall.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Your reserve fund. I mean, I'll admit it, I'm a cost center. I'm the biggest cost center in the golf course operation. I believe in, judiciously spending our money. And because then we can put off things in the future. We have a lot of other things that are coming up down the pike that are going to cost us in the $50,000 to $60,000 to $70,000 that we have to be ready for. New fuel tanks, pesticide storage building, retention, what do they call it, a weir or retention area on our irrigation pond, so the backside of the pond doesn't blow out and we come in one day and we have no water. Well, there's no dike.
Yeah.
And what has happened, I don't know, most folks probably know that the Grand Canyon came from a trickle of water. Well, what happened in this instance is the trickle of water went over the back embankment. 7 or 8 years, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, we had 2 or 3 storms in a row where we had over 6 inches of rain. And that little trickle got wider and wider, and now you have a V that's about this wide and about 6 feet deep. And I've had to pull back on the wells level of filling the pond, because if I fill it high, all I'm doing is throwing water out the backside. And what that reduces our amount of irrigation water, which influences the irrigation cycle and so on. But those are just other costs we have to consider. So within the leasing or the equipment purchasing and these other things, if we can maintain our current level of contingency going into the next 3 to 4 years, then we'll be able to, hopefully those things will hold on, we'll be able to address them all.
And I'd like to speak, Steve does his due diligence, he does his research, he knows his equipment inside and out, he takes good care of it, excellent care of it, track record, and his consistency on the level of the conditions of the course, as well as the customer service and that we provide at the pro shop, has kind of led us to this area of success. Prior to this, when COVID, everybody would say, COVID created, it pushed a lot of business. But our reputation over the last 15, 19 years is what the word of mouth, when someone went and played Pecoy or played Crosswinds or some other track, they say, hey, have you played Acushnet yet? And the rounds come our way. So now we're in a point where COVID's over. We're still seeing a good amount of volume because those customers came and now they're staying and playing. So we're not staying at that peak COVID because everybody's working. where they weren't working before. But we haven't dropped off all that much either, so we've held on to those customers, and that goes a lot to the operation that we run for you guys. And that's where our mindset is when we're running the place. So.
Dana, that kind of leads me into a question, because I know last year we had the conversation, capacity, you were right there with what you could do.
42,000 rounds we hit, peaked. That was a very high number, but some of the guys on the golf committee said it was too much. I'll be honest, if I could have put 45,000 out, I would have pushed them out.
So what did we end up pushing out last year?
We were at, what was it, 37?
30, yeah, I think it was
37,000.
So roughly about 90% capacity, you'd call it?
Yeah.
If 43 was
Weekends
peak?
are jam-packed, and then your weekday play is where, that's where you see some fluctuations, because a lot of guys, that's your retirement, guys. And in the summer, of course, you have the summer madness, the 100 days of hell. You're just grinding.
So what's the expectation for this upcoming year? Because I know one of the concerns I had last year was that you were still expected to run in a deficit even with the rate increases that you did last year. So I'd like to know what the plan is for this year, because if we're still running at a deficit and everybody's increasing their prices due to costs, it seems like the time we should be.
We were profitable last season. We didn't run a deficit.
Well, I know we were looking at about a $200,000 difference in the budget from what was coming in and what you were spending.
When was?
No. We had stayed, I was gonna speak to that. We do have $100,000 in reserve on the top that we don't, that's an emergency fund, as Steve was saying. If one of his $70,000 lawnmowers catches on fire and burns up, well, we need to take action immediately. So rather than having to go through the red tape of all different kinds of meetings and boards and committees, we put that up there. We don't use that money unless it's in dire need. But we didn't run a $200,000 shortfall last year.
Okay.
We were
well in
running
excess.
I wouldn't want to pull the audio-visual man out from his duties, but he could give us the information on the last 2 years of profit. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, we discussed at our last golf committee meeting that as of now, we're 100,000 above, ahead of
this
plan
year.
For this year.
Last year, it was, the 2 years of COVID was in excess of.
One was 500 and one was close to 6.
Yeah, I think our enterprise fund hasn't been certified cash yet, but it's got to be over $1 million at this point.
It was 1.1, I believe.
Years ago, though, it was far from that, which is why we led these things to go buy equipment piece by piece, do the cots in phases. But there's only 2 years out of 20 where we missed budget. And 1 year was by 10,000, the other was by 14,000. That's basically a Saturday sales, and that's epic rainstorms that hit. So 90% of the time we always hit budget and return a profit.
Good. What are the plans this year for rates?
That's before the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our idea was last year.
It's gotta be approved.
Yes. So I was
It
thinking
goes
last
to the
year.
Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, right.
It's only the Board of Selectmen's authority.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I said, that we discussed it
Right.
at the last golf committee meeting,
Yeah.
but it has to go,
It has to go to the Board of Selectmen. I mean, to answer your question, not to be too specific, there are rate increases on the board.
We typically would do them every 2 or 3 years in the past because that's our niche. As people would bump on their raises and on their rates, we sit in, just beneath them, and that's how we draw people from them. So last year we went up $3 across the board. That was successful. We didn't get any blowback from customers. Everybody kind of appreciated it because actually our competition went up between 5 and 8. This year we have a recommendation to go up a little bit more, and we're still below our competition, so we're still in our wheelhouse, and we're gonna draw people in. For our price point and the conditions that Steve has us placed in, we're a go-to and for that guy that wants a recreational round of golf.
I think we're comfortable in that 35 to 38,000 round a year range, unless you either change your maintenance scope because, you know, your acreage isn't going to change.
Mhm.
And depending on the weather, with that many rounds, also how many of our carts, I mean, our golf course is small in places, and it takes a beating from the golf cart traffic. I'm not so much worried about my greens, you know, because, you know, that's where I focus most of my attention, and I can handle that. But the rough and the other outskirts, things that kind of, you know, you can't really do too much with because it's so cost prohibitive, that's where we take a beating. I mean, if you can change rounds to be more, I mean, you know, golf used to be exercise, and now everybody and their brother has to take a
4 cup
cart.
holders, mandatory.
And the worst thing about COVID was that everybody took a cart and everybody took one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
that was,
really
wow.
took a beating. But I think our comfort range is between 37 or 35 to 38, 39,000. The other thing you want to consider too is depending on what your golfing public is. We don't have 75% of the people that are 2 to 10 handicaps.
no,
And you can't really ask somebody what their handicap is when they sign up for a tee time. So you don't, I mean, your first tee time might be a 35, 38 handicap, and he might slow you down for the
he
rest of
kills
the
your
day.
day. Yeah.
So
Be one of the first
we
6
have
guys
to,
that
we
goes
have
out
to
and shoot
manage that
a
number.
$150, forget it.
Well, we have to manage that number of people
I remember those.
based
days.
on the flow
That's bad.
through the golf course, or else people
That's
are
bad.
not going to want to come back when they pay a 6-hour round.
Yeah.
So those are some of the, you know, the periphery things that go into determining how many people you get out there. And, you know, not this past year, but the year before, we had excellent weather. This past summer was a stinker. I mean, it didn't rain,
Yeah, a little
and it
too
was
much
hot,
sun.
and people still came out, but, you know, we took a beating in places
Yeah.
because it was just hot, and it didn't rain.
It's two
And-
2 years of solid sunshine.
So, I think that's our comfort range. I think we can handle that. And again, I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that each year we're going to have to consider either some type of rate raise, depending on what's happening in the general economy, but also what our competition's doing. I mean, so far, from what I can understand, most of our competition is going up $5.
And between energy and the cost of everything else, people
Yeah, it's
expect
expected.
it to be more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And with that being said, if I could put out 45,000, I'd still do it. I'm gonna.
And then you have to answer to him
Yeah,
to fix
well,
it.
that's,
see,
that's the relationship.
That's
with
the
it.
problem that nobody
But-
really understands, because sometimes people see Dana and I argue and they think, oh, those guys don't like me.
It's 120.
Well, his
We're putting
job
out
is to beat the
300
snot
guys.
out of the place, and my job is to keep it looking nice.
Mhm.
So you gotta come in there somewhere, and, you know, at some points, you know, yeah, we gotta jam more people out there than we can afford to jam, and we gotta jam this outing in. I mean, when you have a shotgun on a Friday afternoon, one on a Saturday, and one on a Monday, I might as well send my guys on vacation.
Right.
8 o'clock shotgun on a Friday, 8 o'clock shotgun on a Monday, I can't cut it.
No, I do.
Unless I
I'll
do
be
it at
honest.
2
I
o'clock in
bury
the
him.
morning.
I bury him
So,
because that's
I mean,
what people want. If you come to me for an outing, right? I go X amount of days and months to get them in, and they all want the same days, and they plan. I mean, 144 people plan to do dinner on that day at a certain time. So
Our business, you know, we
It's
make
crazy.
money on what comes through the door.
Yeah.
We don't have the luxury of a private club, whereas, oh, no, we don't, I mean, no, we don't want that many outings. I'll pay more in my dues just to
Right.
have 14,000
Yeah,
rounds a
more
year.
of the privacy.
We have to keep
Yeah.
people coming through the
You
door.
can't
And
turn people.
unfortunately, there's 3 or 4 months that are real popular for them to come through.
Okay.
I mean, I think you've got a good piece of property, I think you've got a good resource.
oh, it's a great track.
As long as we keep paying attention to what needs to be done and not let things accumulate. I hate to pick on schools, but when, you know, and I'll use the local town that I live in, when you let the roof go bad, the boiler go bad, the parking lot go bad, and everything goes bad at the same time,
That's
then you
the problem.
can't afford to
Well,
fix it.
it's almost like your own house, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every year you
You
should
don't do
take
that.
something, a project.
Right.
That's
Like,
why
I'm gonna work on
that's
this
why we
this
try to
year,
do a project
so it doesn't
at
all
least
build
every
up.
year, because we have to keep up with it.
Our customers recognize that, and they speak to that when they check in or check out every year. They like, you know what I love about this place? I can see you guys are working on the place, and there's always improvements being made, whether it's a cot path or a stone wall or a change or a new tee box.
Trying to do
customers,
something each year.
they recognize
different,
it,
so
and
they
they
can
appreciate
say-
it. So
see
when we
that
do
their
go
money's
up
going,
$3,
so.
$2, $5, they're like, hey, I'm getting it, it's coming back to me, because I'm playing the place, so.
I have a two-part question with regards to the line item capital projects.
Here you go.
So, okay, so under that, so the first part of the question is, so what are the capital projects gonna be? And then the second part of that question was gonna be, is that something that would have typically been put forward as an article, and now it's in the operating budget?
No, it's always been there. It's basically, that's our leftover kitty when we do our budget. We put what's in there. If we don't have anything, it goes to zero. If we have 25,000, we put it to 25,000. Steve will make presentations on priorities for recommended projects. The golf committee will sit down and review whether it's in the scope of that fiscal year. Should we take it on? What's the volume of business? Do we want to hold on to that? Because we can only spend as much as we make. So if the volume's there and it looks like we're going to make it, then Steve's giving all right, check out this, get some estimates, and then tackle those projects. So
There are some projects in the queue that the committee and the board are talking about.
The,
So that- you mentioned something to that point where you said we can only spend as much as we make. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's gonna tie into my next little thing,
Mhm.
and then Steve, you can have the floor. With regards to indirect costs, because this has
Mhm.
always come up, this comes up every year at town
Sure.
meeting. There's always nitpicking over your budget.
Mhm.
Now, for everybody out there watching, we're gonna be as fully transparent as we can. We're not
Sure. It's-
hiding anything.
Nope.
So your indirect cost, fringe benefits and health insurance, would there be any other indirect cost that you would consider besides that?
The assistant collector,
Well,
that's also a fringe benefit.
That's
I
an
mean, that's
indirect
also an
cost
indirect
too,
cost.
but the question of indirect costs, and, I'm gonna play dumb, because I've asked 3 or 4 times for somebody to explain that to me, and nobody's ever, if it's an indirect cost, then you should be able to go
Yes.
A, B, C, D, E, here it is. Now, I never heard the word indirect cost until Mr. Noble became the town administrator. Prior to Mr. Noble, I never heard indirect costs, and then somebody came up with the idea that we're automatically gonna hit your budget with
Yeah, Julie
$125,000
was hot on
in
that.
extra cost.
She wanted.
And I said, really?
three-
Right out of the
three
blue,
fees.
with no explanation or nothing?
Yeah.
I mean, if we owe it, we gotta work with it, but please explain what indirect costs are.
She had
and-
some tie back to insurance where we
Well-
only had 2 guys on insurance.
I've been
We're a department of
doing-
4 full. Back 120 on us. It doesn't make any sense
Right, well, that's
mathematically.
So to my point is,
It's
You
a
know,
lot
you-
more
you-
than just health insurance.
Well, somebody has to.
Medicare, number one. All the wages.
okay,
You've got to process that.
so minus the indirect cost, their budget is covered by their user fees.
Yes.
Yeah, not taxation.
No.
It's not coming out of taxation, so
No.
it's, their operating
It's an
budget.
enterprise account.
Yes.
If you do
That
not,
always gets misconstrued
if
every
you
single year, and
do,
it probably will again this year.
yeah, but if you do not pay for the account with your income, not, let's call it income because that's what it is. If you do not pay for it on multiple years, DOR will close down your enterprise account and you will end up just having a revolving account. This is truly an enterprise account. If you lose money 3 years in a row, even if it's $5,000 a year, DOR will close down your enterprise account.
Right, and I think I don't know if it was 2 town meetings ago, the indirect cost, basically, I think, according to one of the selectmen who spoke at the meeting, came out to
Incorrectly.
about $20 per household.
Yeah, that was no, and his number came from, you have 10,000 residents, $20, $200,000. That was a summation of his math. I was like,
Okay,
what is he doing? Why would he say that on TV to the townspeople? That's totally inaccurate.
exactly, so,
It's not taxation.
right, It's not, but there's always some residents out there who are gonna be adamant that, you know, taxation is being utilized.
You're not,
I run into that. I go to a restaurant, they say, you know, we're taxpayers, we're wasting our money
It's
at the
not.
golf course.
I mean,
It's
this-
costing us a lot of money.
Well, it was
And I
like
tried to
that,
explain to them,
People from Boston pay more for this golf
Meeting.
course than the town of Acushnet
no.
does.
An enterprise account is set up so the revenue from the enterprise
Covers the expenses.
covers the expenses.
Yes.
And we've had tight years where we've had to sit down, 2 months before the end of the fiscal year and go, all right, scratch this, scratch that, scratch this, shut this down, scratch that, we gotta come in.
Well,
And we did.
A budget assessment for me is a weekly thing, depending on what invoices come in and what I post. I keep my own budget ledger because, I'm not gonna, because by the time I turn in an invoice, it gets processed, it goes to finance, the finance folks get done with it, and I come out with a budget reconciliation report. I'm 4 weeks ahead of that. So I keep mine, and if we're getting close to the end of the year, at each golf committee meeting, we have a review of where we stand financially. And if we're getting close to the end of the year, then the question is put to us is, okay, where can we save, or
Right.
where can we cut, or where can we not spend? And that's how we address that. In answer to your question about capital expense was in a line item that was originally included in the budget way back when this course was managed by a management company. I worked for Valley Crest first, which later on turned into Environmental Golf, and you had a capital expense line item. And that line item was in there because the golf committee would express to the management company what capital projects they would want to do. So we would put in a value in there, what those were going to cost. And we could do those without having to go out to bid or anything else, because the management company was a general contractor, and we could hire people to do those jobs. Once the town took over as, running both portions of the operation of the golf course, that line item was left in there. But to be quite honest with you, the capital projects money really wasn't spent until we got to a certain point of the year, as Dana had mentioned, where we
3
can
weeks
see
left.
where we're not gonna be running out of money. So then it was, okay, well, if we're gonna make our number, and we're gonna be okay, then let's see if we can do a couple of these projects. Well, a lot of times, that doesn't work, because it's like me, driving my car down the road, and it gets, and I get I have an engine light come on, and I call the guy up at 8 o'clock at night, and I say, I'm bringing my car in 5 o'clock tomorrow morning for you to check. He said, no, you're not. Well, that's the same thing with the capital expense. If I want to redo a bunker, and I want to get a quote from a contractor, say, yeah, I'll come and give you a quote, but I don't have time to do that until 3 months from now. Then I'm into another budget year.
Yep.
So we've kept that item in the line item, but then we've tried to concentrate efforts as far as improvements and equipment are concerned in articles at town meeting. And our article at town meeting says, okay, well, we intend to spend this money that we're requesting on A, B, C, D, and E. And then that allows us the flexibility to get someone in to give you a quote and find out the cost, and then be able to do the job on their time schedule and within the time limits of golf and everything else. So that capital expense line item is there. It's not used unless we feel that we're comfortable with our economic situation coming towards the end of the year, and we're not going to, basically not going to spend money we don't have.
So if it doesn't get used, it goes back into your stabilization.
Yeah, if it doesn't get used, then it's at
If
the
we
end
can
of the year.
encumber it for the project, we'll do it, but if not, it just goes back.
Yeah, it goes back into the, whatever's considered revenue for that particular
Do
fiscal
you,
year.
do you guys have an article that you're gonna be presenting at the?
We just presented it at the meeting in, was it October? We had a $300,000 article in October.
I remember that, yeah.
Me personally, I would like to put in an article every time we have a town meeting, but that's up to the golf committee and what they, I'm sure they'll poll us for, ideas if they're interested
I
in doing
haven't
that?
seen one yet.
Well, that's probably good, right? I mean,
Well, you're picking the wrong time of year because the guys are going to Florida and stuff, so
Yeah, they're not around.
it's hard to get a
this would
meeting.
probably be a good year not to have an article right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could, I mean,
Good
you know,
timing.
granted, we did that article and it was a substantial article, it got passed. So, I mean, I feel comfortable with that article now. I don't personally speaking, I don't foresee the golf committee putting forward an article for the next town meeting.
I think, especially since it's very likely we're going to have a fall town meeting, just because I don't expect the legislature, first year of a gubernatorial term, to pass a budget by
Yeah.
July 1, that we'll be looking at differences in local aid that we would have to address in a fall town meeting. So very likely that would be the time that article should appear.
So the majority of the increases in your budget are essentially due to fixed cost, inflationary measures, all that stuff.
Equipment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
equipment.
but it's all cost of doing business,
Right.
to meet the demand that we currently have.
Right, yeah, 'cause if you're not keeping the golfers happy, then they'll not come back and play and pay to play.
Well, I approached, you know, we have 3 significant line items besides payroll. We have the equipment repair maintenance, which we've discussed already. We have fertility products and pesticide product. And I go to my vendors, and my basic question to them this year was, what is it going to cost me to maintain the same level of product use that I did this past year?
Yeah.
And they all looked at me and they said, count on 8 to 12% increase across the board as of January 1st. So,
And as
We-
far as food, I just saw on CNBC, they said grocery costs have gone up 17%, and I have mine, I think, food and beverage going up 15, I think, was it? I don't know.
Yeah, I
Food
think-
supplies, 13%, so.
Yeah, don't make anything with eggs over
I was just gonna
well, I don't know about, I mean, can you make it with turkey eggs? Because we
Nothing
know-
makes better than-
No way.
Eggs
Eggs are off the menu.
A few eggs. How about goose eggs? 'Cause I can find you a few of those and shake them up for you.
I was gonna say, you probably could have gone on the course.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for these gentlemen while they're here? I think we've pretty much covered everything. And I think you guys do a great job with our golf course. It's, you know, in a short 4 years, it's gonna be an asset to the town. I mean, it already is an asset to the
Yes,
town, but
absolutely.
we're not gonna owe anything on it at that point, which is even better.
Yeah,
And
so
then
if
that's-
you take
and
off
then-
that debt and principal,
Yeah, that's gonna open up other opportunities for that course.
Well, the other thing that I would hope the folks in town realize, and we have quite a few who do, I mean, it's not just a golf course. We have countless numbers of people who come out and walk,
Just walk, right?
exercise.
yeah.
I mean, it's one of the few places where you can walk quite a bit, and you can either walk on the grass or you can walk on a paved surface.
Great land, great piece of
You guys
land.
get joggers in there at all?
We have joggers
We
sometimes.
have some our joggers usually come around 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning is when I usually see them. We have a couple that usually used to come off the backside, and we have one fellow, I don't know what part of the course he comes on, but he must run the whole bloody thing. We have people who walk their dogs, a lot of people this time of year, they know what time we come in and go, so they park outside of the gate so they don't get locked in, and they walk the golf
And when
course.
it used to snow, we used to have cross-country skiers.
Yeah, as long as the cross-country skiers stay on the flat surfaces and don't ski across my greens, we're happy campers. But we have a lot of other uses. Probably one of the largest, besides farms, one of the largest open spaces in the town. Quite a bit of water for lack of a better word, recycling through. I mean, turf grass is one of the best recyclers of water and probably the best producer of oxygen. A 4x4 foot plot of turf grass produces enough oxygen for a family of 4 for a year. So it has a lot of benefits besides the open space, and I encourage people to come out and
Appreciate it.
you know, take advantage of it. I mean, there's we don't have any fish in our pond, or I'd say fishing too, but There's a lot of, we have a substantial amount of wildlife, everything from, I was surprised, 4 weeks ago, we were out working on the pond embankment on the 12th hole, we saw a bald eagle.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Came across the
Somebody
15th
took
pond.
pictures of it
Yeah.
in the trees, yeah.
Yeah, and we have otters, eagles,
Hopefully he
deers,
sticks around, that'd be kinda cool.
Yeah, that would be neat.
blue herons, snowy egrets, widgeons, and wood ducks, regular mallards, unfortunately geese, but that's not the topic altogether.
You still bring your dog out there to chase the geese?
My dogs are, well, I used to. When one border collie passed away, I had to put down my Chesapeake Bay Retriever. I have one border collie / black lab, but she tore her ACL. And well, this was 2 years ago, and my wife's children, now that my son's 27 and my daughter's 25, the children aren't allowed to come to the golf because she just doesn't want them to tear his ACL again. And little O'Reilly, she probably love it, but she's my wife's shadow, so she probably wouldn't come with me. I hope to have another dog in the future, but my wife said no more pets until we have 2 dogs and a cat. Can't have any more until Mother Nature takes its course there. So.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming in tonight. And as I said, it's a great golf course, you know, for the residents out there. If you've never played and you have an interest in playing, definitely check it out. It's a lot of value, and it's great scenery. And
For anybody who's watching, if you're retired or have any inclination to want to be a part-time or full-time employee, we're hiring. We have a couple positions available, and we'll have signage out in front of the golf course next week, contingent upon how our wage discussion goes with the Board of Selectmen at the end of this week.
I mean, what a great environment to work in for somebody, you know, looking for part-time work. And it's just, you're outside, you're outdoors, you're getting fresh air. It doesn't get any better than that.
We have a great group of guys that appreciate it. They really get along well,
I don't
and
know.
and they at the end of every season they always thank me. They go, listen, you guys don't know, you know, you've given me a second life after retirement. Something to do, guys
I'll
to hang
check
out
it
with,
out.
Yeah, I mean,
laugh, joke, get
I-
something done,
I
be
encourage
constructive.
everybody to stay as active as they can.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and that's a good way to do it, and then you earn a little bit of money on the side too. So
Yep.
there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, once again, thank you. Thank you for
Appreciate
coming
it. We
in.
appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work, guys.
See you Friday.
Sick of that phone. We got to get rid of. Can I say get rid of Comcast on? It would save me some money.
We're slated for the phone system, I think, at some point.
My friend back there in the video booth mentioned that we're going to get fiber,
Yep.
Yep,
and then once we get fiber, we can.
bye-bye Comcast.
Okay. Nothing I heard anything.
Just knock on the door and tell them to hurry up.
Oh. Get moving.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
good night.
Have a good night.
All right, next on our agenda is Board of Selectmen budget and updates. Mr. Kelly?
Board of Selectmen budgets are what has been presented. If there are any cuts, we'll determine that in the next couple rounds.
So this is the latest, right? As
The
far as
memo
those-
I've got,
Yeah.
yeah.
More optimistic,
Mm-hmm.
but, except for health insurance.
So, the updates are the governor surprised us, shocked me, with the increase in the Chapter 70. Also shocked me in that there was no real increase in UGGA, but it was below what I estimated would be the increase, but I think if my crystal ball is right, the legislature will have the opportunity to increase the UGGA, and then the governor can take credit for the increase in Chapter 70, and the state reps and senators can take their credit for the UGGA.
She's also looking to drop taxes.
Pardon?
She's also looking to drop taxes. Short-term capital gains taxed at the same rate as everything else, so.
The increase in the Chapter 70 most likely was paid by the millionaire's tax.
As it should be, because that's the whole purpose, or what was,
Mm.
but nobody's paid it yet.
No, but there's such a surplus. 50,000
That's
was
why
the
she's gonna be able to drop the short-term capital gains, yeah.
50,000 was the increase in the assessments. The net increase from the original estimates was 571,000 and change in additional revenue. Health insurance came back and bid us. Increase in the only entity that's bid so far. We've had 2 entities decline to bid. The only entity that bid, the increase is close to 500,000.
And they've declined to bid because our stats are so bad.
They declined to bid because our loss ratio is so bad, even though 2 of the top 5 are probably going to be off our balance sheet in the next, one in the next month and the other in the next 6 months.
When an employee of the town reaches the age, Medicare age, do they automatically transfer, or we can still carry them?
They're carried, most likely they stay active.
Okay.
It's, for example, I'm not on your health insurance, but if I was, I'd be as an active employee rather than going on Medicare and the wraparound.
Okay. Is that a possibility? I only ask because we tried doing that we tried doing that at work, which would impact where I work, just the partners who reach that age, but.
Yeah, no, this is, you don't have that much of an opportunity. Most
Okay.
of the people,
Are under 65.
yeah.
Okay.
We're still waiting on a bunch of health groups to reply. I poked them today, and they said they'd get it within the next week, another one within the next 2 weeks. If nothing changes, the cost for an HMO family plan to the town will be a substantial increase of $5,000 a year. And so, when you look at that 60%, the substantial increase for our employees will be.
It's a substantial increase to the town, it's also a substantial increase to their pay, to what they're gonna, it's a huge deduction on their paycheck.
If this
We
is our only option, I'll be investigating the GIC.
Is there an opportunity to offer kind of an incentive to go on a spouse's?
I would expect after 15% increase approximately last year, people should have jumped on their spouses, and we did not have that
That switch.
migration.
It might not be, it might not be an option, or it might be just as bad on the other side.
Yeah, I don't know why, but 15% is,
Some spouse cares are worse in terms of coverage. than what the town offers, so.
So how much is a family, just, how much is a family plan? How much does an employee pay for a family plan?
Pretty high.
It's in here, right?
Yeah,
Yep, 902.63 an HMO family plan per month.
That's their cost.
Yes.
900 a month.
Yeah,
I had to tell you, I pay I wanna say $528 every 2 weeks,
Family plan.
family plan,
yep.
out of my,
High deductible,
nope, no, it's not a high deductible.
just regular
Yeah, we also-
deductible.
Don't say it old, don't
No.
you dare say it.
I would never,
Oh, okay, I'm just
but
checking.
you're in a good market because of your business, right? Because
But we have.
how much are they pitching in?
Just pathetic.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Part of
No,
the,
because the.
part of the problem is
You know,
The firm pays
the
more.
Yeah.
cost is because we buy our insurance individually
So they cover less
from
than they do for the other.
the vendor, which is Harvard Community Health Plan now. We're not part of a group.
You know what's going on with that.
I know, I
Yeah.
know exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to be part of a collaborative years ago.
We used to be in Maya. Maya pretty much thumbed their noses to me, and personally, they had their senior health insurance representative call and remind me that we left them 5 or 6 years ago under
But they gotta
Mr.
realize
Noble.
there's new people. You can't hold it against us.
No, but I've never had this. They had the person call me to say, "You're reaping what you sowed.
Wow.
We are not going to bid."
That's a-
Yes, that was a major mistake.
Why don't all the municipalities and all that get
I
together
honestly don't know.
and go in one group? Wouldn't it be cheaper that way? Or
You do?
That's Maya. There's 200 municipalities or subgroups
That's
that all go
collaborative.
through Maya.
and that's what we have now?
No,
We
We had
you
that.
left
pulled
it.
out of them.
Well, that makes sense, huh?
Mr. Noble had you leave it.
And we left them because it was cheaper for that one moment in time?
Yeah.
That has to be the only,
And the average increase in Maya is usually somewhere between 3 to 7%. The highest it's ever been is 10% in the last 20 years.
the issue is our
Loss
stats are.
ratio.
Yeah, our
And
stats are
that's-
so bad.
And the fact you're not part of a group, so it
That
couldn't be
means, it
spread
means
out.
really high losses on a really small denominator is killing us.
Yep,
There's no chance of getting back into something like that?
well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Who do we have to like kneel and crawl to? I mean, seriously.
As I said, I've poked people, I've begged, I've bought people lunches.
Like, who do we have to, mea culpa,
If
you know?
one of the groups would even transition us in where they'd say that we'll give you a deal where you're self-insured for a couple years and you pay the stop loss and then we allow you in the second or third year, that's probably a deal that I would advise the selectmen to grab at right now.
Self-insured of what cap? Sorry, I don't know what this, what would this?
In other words, we'd go kind of like we are now, but we'd buy stop-loss insurance with,
That caps our exposure,
through them,
yeah.
and then in the second or third year would be a full-fledged part of their group. In other words, they wouldn't
Yeah.
want to buy our losses,
The existing losses, they want us to wait a couple of years, get them,
transition in.
yep. Yeah,
It's the best deal you might get.
I mean, even where I work, we statistically have extremely bad stats as well, so.
I mean,
This is the issue we're experiencing.
there are some insurers out there, and I know it's mine. They offer an incentive to subscribers to keep themselves healthy, to live a healthy lifestyle. And you can accumulate points, and you can, and you can get money on your HSA card.
Maya does that, Harvard Community Health Plan does it. You get money for gym memberships, all of that type of thing.
Fitbits
Blue
and
Cross does that.
competitions.
I mean, because if you have a healthier population, and people are just going for their annual physical and maintenance, you're gonna have a lot less cost.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a lot of this is all,
My
it's due to poor lifestyle.
my previous community that I worked for, we ended up with a full month where they didn't charge us. Maya didn't charge us because during COVID, people were not going to the doctors, so the costs weren't there.
Oh, is that thing you get every once in a while? You get a letter saying that they didn't meet a certain threshold, they give you a refund. Is that what that was?
Something like that.
Yeah, I got one recently.
But the real problem is we've got to get this town into a group.
Yeah. Yep.
However we buy in. Or I'm going to advise that we go into GIC, which is not as good coverage. It's not the state coverage, it's a group insurance, but it's a municipal pool. And the danger for the town is that it's mostly the high-risk pool for municipalities. And the rates can go up multiple times in 1 year.
Do we look at, when we're switching, how this will impact individuals who are part of the plan with like their prescription drug coverage, their doctors, things like that?
I look at everything when I'm trying to get us into something. For example, one of the groups I'm looking at, their retiree coverage costs even less than Maya's. And they were able to use that savings to cover some higher costs on the active plan because they have a reliance on Canadian pharmaceuticals
Well, I'm just,
for retirees.
well, I guess I'm thinking about it from, this was something we were faced at where I worked. And there were two groups when we were looking at this that were gonna be negatively impacted. One group, because believe it or not, we had a high number of either employees or family members that with MS. And finding the drug that works for you is very much almost like a trial and error. And then the other one is ADHD medication. Okay?
Which nobody can get.
And so we chose not to switch and pay higher costs to not negatively impact individuals because we didn't want them to all of a sudden have to try new drugs that may or may not work and go through that. So I guess that's what I'm coming, that's where I'm
The
coming from.
employees have an insurance advisory committee that our consultant will convene them. Actually, they're convening March 6th. They'll talk about these issues. The unions have their own advisors that come with some of the insurance advisory committees. The various options are presented to them. They will tell the selectmen which ones they prefer. The selectmen can listen to them. The selectmen can listen to our consultants. The selectmen can listen to the staff. And then the selectmen will make a decision on which insurance we go with.
I mean, I go back to this idea of incentivizing an employee to take better care of themselves with a monetary reduction in their monthly premium. If you can show that, let's say you've gotten to a better BMI, which is your body mass index. So if you have a lower BMI, you're going to generally be healthier. You're not gonna have like as many issues with hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes. Those are the big three. And those three right there cost billions of dollars a year in medications and other health-related costs that go along with it.
I know that Maya has programs that not only do that, for those type of things where they have exercise programs, they have gym membership rebates, they have all those type of things, but they also have smoking cessation programs. They have a number of employee programs that address various issues that someone might have.
I mean,
Family issues. They have contests where groups of employees will end up with, $100 gift cards from for groups of 10. So that's $1,000 you're throwing back for if they are the top in, let's say, an annual walking program or something like
it's something that the entire country needs this, to be honest with you. It's just, it's gotten out of hand, and the most important thing is someone's health, right? And it's not all about the money. That's a great thing if you can save money on your monthly premium, but really it's ultimately about your health and your quality of life. Because the healthier you are, you're gonna have a better quality of life, especially as you get older. So you're not dependent on 10 different medications to keep you functioning. I mean, who wants to do that? I know I don't.
It's a number of the health groups have those type of things.
And I think it should be it should be essential that's part of a plan.
The real issue here is just getting them to consider us.
Right, you're just gonna get your foot in the door, Jamie.
Yeah.
So
Another
kick that door in.
lunch.
There you go.
So it looks like because of these adjustments that took place, both in budgets and then state aid and all of that, we're now maybe a couple of $100,000 short, but it really depends on how, where we land on health insurance.
Yep. And some of the others. The other insurances haven't come in yet.
And so.
And there are cuts that the town side is making, so when I'd be confident that we would be able to balance the budget.
Okay.
As everything sits right now.
I can envision the cuts on the town side. I can envision where I think worst case scenario going with the GIC versus Harvard, where we would end up.
Okay, you can get a good estimate on that, because that's a huge variable in this whole analysis. Okay, because realistically, we're not gonna have an answer on health insurance before town meeting.
Yeah, we will.
We will, okay,
I expect we'll have an answer in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
okay. All right, that's good.
Do you want to, I know there's some recap that's in here, but where we stand with our school system at Old Colony, especially where Old Colony has their meeting next Monday?
Old Colony's fine. They were 440 with the preliminary. They're
Like
228
half of
now?
that.
down to 228.
Oh, decrease
But
of 228.
and that includes is it 18 new students?
Yeah. I saw our cost per student's just a little over 14 and change.
Yeah, originally it was 16 and change. No, and Aaron and I are playing phone tag. And I know that on the 31st, the legislative breakfast is at Old Colony, and it's going to be a push to get the legislation passed. We've sent letters to the legislative delegation in support of the bills. And the selectmen will be discussing the feasibility study on March 14th. And that is, now brings me to my next point. The chairman has asked me to ask this Finance Committee to consider a joint meeting on the 14th with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. The school will be presenting their budget to the Board of Selectmen, and we're inviting Old Colony in that day too.
So the 14th? So that's a
Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday, right? So that'll essentially be our Finance Committee meeting for that week. So is it the Board of Selectmen that's actually holding the meeting?
It would be a joint meeting,
Okay,
FinCom
so
and
we're all
Board of
open up-
Selectmen.
Yeah, we've done that before. We each open up our own meeting. Okay,
When is that?
March 14th. So it's a Tuesday, what time?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
But we can take care of our normal stuff, and then that's why I'm talking, and then skip, because,
Well, that's because the Board of Selectmen usually meet at that time.
yeah, but the selectmen could take care of the normal stuff that they do in the selectmen's meeting,
Mhm.
and then convene the joint meeting later.
So we could join later. Say, I don't know.
What would be convenient for the quorum?
Actually, I can do Tuesday.
I mean, that's fine for me. I mean, because I'm off
I
on
can do
Tuesday.
it.
I'm off on Tuesday afternoon.
What's that?
I can do it also.
I can do it too. I
Yeah.
can,
What, say 5 o'clock? I mean, I don't think we have to be there for 4. 'Cause
5 o'clock, we'll post that, the joint meeting at 5, we'll post the selectmen's meeting at 4.
Okay.
Where would the meeting be? Here?
No, right, we're gonna be at the school? Or here?
Here.
Here, okay.
Don't you
We're all
think
gonna
it-
fit in here?
Don't you think
Yeah, we're not meeting here, are we? We have to be a police
what about,
station.
yeah, I was gonna say police
we
station.
can do the police station or the COA?
Yeah, I
I
think we're
see.
gonna need a bigger room than
We need a
this.
bigger room.
All right,
Because- Yeah, because it's gonna be like a
I
a
say,
round
I say
table,
police
but,
station. Police station's pretty,
where it's set up
convenient.
like in a rectangular.
Yeah, yeah.
kind
I
of
will
format.
check with the chief, but I'm sure he will be glad to host the Board of Selectmen and
Yeah.
the Finance Committee.
Okay.
and even if he isn't, you're gonna tell us he was.
Gonna cater it too?
All right.
Mr. Kelly, back to the school meeting, are you coming Monday to their invitation where they had set down for everybody?
I've got to talk to Aaron and see. I've got a couple meetings, but I'm definitely going to the legislative one on the 31st.
All right, so we'll get to our schedule in a minute. Anything else you want to update us with?
You've got the information in front of you.
Okay.
It's,
So I'm sorry, one question on Old Colony. Any sense on whether the other towns are okay
with
with that
the,
budget, or are they gonna push back?
with the feasibility study.
No, sorry, just that this year's budget. that they're proposing.
I haven't seen any chatter
Okay,
negative yet.
Yeah, and how about with the feasibility study?
There's still a little bit of chatter, but not as much.
Okay, so it's gonna be a go, probably.
I'm gonna reach out to Ari Sky, because he and I were the two people asking the most questions on the
Well,
last,
I would imagine
on
he's
the
gonna-
last Zoom meeting.
I would imagine he's gonna touch upon that when he comes to the joint meeting, right? So
Yep.
that's gonna come up.
I just gotta make sure he can be there, otherwise it'll just be our school.
Right.
I think our schools most likely would be able to answer anything on Bristol Aggie. But just so you know, we're going to be looking to break out Bristol Aggie and the 2 tuitions this year when we present it to town meeting.
So
Even
we'll
though
know
it's
a
a
cost per
bottom
student
line.
for them all.
Huh?
So we'll know a cost per student for them all.
Well, at least we'll know the cost.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be the cost per student, it'll be the cost, the tuition, transportation, et cetera.
right. But I know I did ask for the cost per student so we can put it in perspective in
That
terms
would
of
be
Fairhaven,
their
Bristol Aggie, Oklahoma.
presentation to you.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Kelly? Because otherwise I'm going to get into the reserve fund from the golf department.
If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Anybody else have any questions?
Nope.
Nope. All right, let's take up the reserve fund transfer from the golf reserve account in the amount of $24,000. That is going to top seed and top dressing, which is for $2,900, fertilizer $15,100, and pesticides $6,000.
Yeah, motion to accept.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Any discussion?
That's all coming out of their own money.
That's all coming out of their reserve fund.
100% their money. Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. For Jamie. All right. Okay, the old business. I just want to mention our now former town employee, Lisa Leonard. She recently retired and, was a longtime executive assistant to our board of selectmen, our town administrators, numerous over the years, correct? And just wanted to congratulate her on her retirement.
She's still involved. She texted me the day the school had a delay.
Oh, so it's not completely official yet?
No, but she texted
She's
me
so
to remind me
Okay.
what I should do.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought
That's
I
awesome.
caught some of the board of selectmen meeting and I'm like, oh, I forgot to mention that last
Yeah.
time. So I
Uh,
just wanted to give her some recognition.
Just so you know, Mr. Chairman, on Tuesday the 7th, the soil board is having a meeting at the COA to consider the PJ Keating application. So I'm just doing a shout out to let the folks know that there'll be a public hearing on that.
When is that date again?
And the 7th.
This March 7th
Right, that's
at the
so
COA.
I'm planning on attending the school committee meeting that same night, so.
I'll probably end up being there.
But so that meeting between what, soil board and PJ Keating,
Yeah.
that could potentially be a positive thing.
Well,
Hopefully,
the application has
Considering-
been submitted, the soil board is beginning the public hearing on it.
Yeah, because I mean, this, you don't want the legal
What time will
fees to
that
keep
start, sir?
racking up.
Right?
What time will that meeting start?
Absolutely.
I'd have to look it up off the top of my head. Wait a minute.
Oh, hold on, actually, she might have put it in.
I've got so many of the various times.
She has it in the calendar for 4:30. So it's probably 5.
I think it might be 5, yeah.
Okay, next, new business, anybody have any new
4:30,
business?
5, yeah, 4:30.
Negative.
No new business, okay. We have some minutes to approve from February 8, 2023. In attendance was myself, Sue, Pete, Eric, Bob Ferrera, and Mr. St. Jean.
Motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, these minutes passed. Okay, next up is our next meeting date, which is next Wednesday,
Wednesday.
the 8th, March 8th.
Yep.
7 o'clock, right here. We have pending the planning board coming in, as well as building department confirmed. We have DPW, well, no, that's, well, Kathy, is DPW coming in?
Yes.
They are, so they're confirmed.
Confirmed, too.
So right now, DPW is the only one confirmed for next week.
And building.
And okay, and building is also. Okay. All right, so if we can get the.
Who
planning
did you
board in.
invite with planning?
I didn't invite anybody yet. Because I didn't know who to invite. I don't have any
Yeah, because
contact.
who would be representing the planning board?
It might be the chair, it might be me.
Okay.
Oh,
I can
man.
talk to the chair, I know the chair, our daughters dance together. I can make them come. You might hate me, but I'll make them come.
So that's the 8th. So then the next week, we're gonna have our joint meeting on the 14th with so Old Colony hopefully will be there,
Yep,
and our schools.
yep.
So that's gonna basically wrap up all our hearings on the 14th. So we're actually gonna get done a week ahead of schedule.
Well, the last week should be saved just in case we
Yeah.
have to, we have to report any cuts to the committee.
So that 22nd, March 22nd, we'll kind of hold open. And then we're gonna go into our deliberations.
Well, and articles.
I mean, we could actually, I mean, if there's nothing.
I mean, we're having at least, other than the typical articles, we'll probably have, as you heard, the stormwater
Mhm.
bylaw. We will have maybe one zoning article. We'll have an article for a home rule petition to allow a call firefighter to serve beyond the age limit. We will have possibly one that affects the sewer enterprise.
So we'll have all the articles in all the articles will be submitted by the 22nd, or no?
No, they won't, but
Because the
we'll
deadline is-
have a number of them in. But the date is after that for the final submission, but we'll have a number of them in.
Most of them will probably already be in by that
And
time.
then we can give them to you.
So I was
Yeah.
gonna say, because that meeting could specifically be used to just discuss the articles that are gonna be
Yep.
presented. And then we can take the next 2 weeks, if we need 2 weeks, to do our deliberations and vote and make our recommendations. The 29th, and then possibly on April 5th. So we can be all done by April 5th. We should be.
Knock on wood.
Yep.
You got wood, I got plastic.
We've knocked, we're
Wait,
knocking,
you're
we're
good.
knocking.
Knock on wood, it's not
And we're
gonna be
knocking.
there's not gonna be any more snowstorms, so we're all good with
There
that.
you go. Mr. Chair, the one quick question before we adjourn. Potential openings on the board? Further
On our
update
committee?
on that?
On our committee? Yeah, so, all right, that's a good point. So, our former committee member Jackie Stanley submitted her letter of resignation. So
Is
now,
it on file with the town clerk?
I believe so. Yes. Yes, so she emailed me to let her know that she had sent it. So we have one opening on our committee right now.
So that'll be two?
No, hers will be the
I
one.
think we have an extra one. It's not listed on the website or anything, just like it
No.
doesn't get updated, but.
It's because,
I mean,
with Mr. St. Jean coming back,
No, so.
yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah, that's the one opening. So
okay.
with all of us, Kathy included, right now we have 8.
Supposed to have 9.
Right, so we're short
Oh.
one member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you mentioned Kathy, we will definitely be having come to you with the CPC recommendations.
Oh, that's right.
All right, so maybe we can take that up on that 20, the week of the 22nd,
Or the next week.
or even next week, yeah, because if we only have DPW coming in and building and possibly planning, yeah,
They
we can
have to
handle
meet
all that.
first, right?
What was that?
They need to meet first.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we'll get from the town finance department the breakdown of what has to be spent.
Okay, being no other business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
Good night.